St. Marie, Michigan. Stay tuned.
I can never get the placement of that right. I'm still learning the new test. I hear this beeping noise and I don't like it. Oh well. There was supposed to be a better introduction than that for this episode because this episode is going to be near and dear to me. Um, can we start over? Good evening, good night, whatever have you may. It's September 7th, 2025. Um, I knew what I wanted to say before, and I knew before coming on I was a little bit tired because I've had a long day. I've been up since 5, working on my podcast and working on finding guests for the podcast through Podmatch, actually. And I discovered all of that through Pete vs. Anxiety. Shout out a. But this episode, I wanted it to be a refresher for in case there's um, in case that there's my guests want to see, who I am, what I'm about, what I expect kind of going forward with them being a guest on my show. And first, I want to read my Podmatch profile that just gives like a basic rundown of what I'm about, and then we'll go through some questions regarding me as an adult living with borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and ADHD. Hi, I'm Wanda Hernandez, a passionate voice in mental health podcasting from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I'm 33 years young and started this podcast in October 2024, but my journey into mental health advocacy began long before that. Since 2017, I've been showing up for myself and for others through therapy, medication management, and honest conversations about what it means to live with borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and ADHD. This podcast is an extension of that journey. It's a space where I share mental health news, review tools and treatments, and talk with people who are navigating their own paths toward healing. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I do speak from experience, and I believe that vulnerability and connection are powerful tools for growth. I also host live sessions on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube where I connect with people in real time about the ups and downs of being human. My goal is to build a community of creators and listeners who value authenticity, support each other, and aren't afraid to talk about the hard stuff. If you're looking for honest conversation, real stories, and a reminder that you're not alone, you're in the right place. I wish I could say that I came up with that on my own, but I highly recommend using Copilot as a tool for many things in life. I used to joke that Google raised me, but Copilot is like Google on steroids. Um, if I ever am cooking a recipe and I don't have all the ingredients, I just type it into Copilot, like, can I still make this? And then it'll give me a recipe, like, without those ingredients. Anyway, um, and I'm also using it for an outline of questions that I think that are important moving forward for people to know about me. Um, so the first question is, can you share a bit about when you first realized you were struggling with your mental health? I didn't look at these really before coming on, and I didn't even think I was going to come on because it's been a long day. I'm tired. But I also have like this little spark of creativity. I feel very much myself right now. Um, I was thinking about doing it, tomorrow, because I'd be better rested and like more perfectionistic. But I figured I'd do it now so you can take a real glimpse of like me chilling, um, who I am. Uh, oh, we got a chat. Hey, Kitty, how are you? Thank you for being here. So back to the first question. Um, when did I realize I was first struggling with my mental health? I vaguely remember being in, I think it had to be like eighth grade because I remember being, yeah, I think it was eighth grade. But it must have been eighth grade. Anyways, it was around that time period where I vaguely remember wanting my sister to hang out with me and like play with me, and she didn't want to. So I didn't realize it at the time, but I took it as like really big rejection, and I ended up going into the medicine cabinet and taking, um, I don't even want to tell you the number because you wouldn't believe it. Um, Benadryl and just over the counter meds, anything like I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it. I I don't know what I was thinking at the time, just that I was so angry and so upset that, I felt alone because I grew up with my great grandma. Um, she raised me and she was a hoarder, so I really didn't get to have friends over that often. And we lived in a neighborhood that didn't have like kids my age or kids around. So I spent a lot of time with her and my aunt and my uncle and cousins, but it was mostly just me and my grandma. So and so my older brother and my older sister were raised by my mom down in Florida. I came up to Michigan when I was a baby. I don't remember, obviously. Um, when I was growing up, my mom said that it was so that my grandma wouldn't feel so alone, and I think that was part of it. But I think it was more because my mom had her own mental health struggles, and I don't know if she could have balanced raising all of us. My siblings and I are. You can definitely tell that we are raised differently in in some good ways and some bad ways. Um, so back to when I first realized I was struggling. I ended up um, going into my room and kind of just did that, and then I journaled about it. I wish I still had the journal entry, but I ended up burning them um, when I was going through some stuff when I got older. But um, I remember starting to feel really dizzy. I think I fell asleep for a little bit, and then when I got up, I went downstairs and was like just felt really sick, and I just started like violently throwing up, and um, just not telling my grandma what happened. She just thought that I was like had the flu or something. But then like, and I don't really remember this, but I must have told her that what had happened, and they ended up taking me to the hospital, and then they gave me that charcoal stuff to like pump my stomach. And then after that, social workers came in, asked me, what my home life was like, stuff like that. Why did I do it? And I don't remember my answers, but I do remember them then sending me to Marquette to be inpatient at a psychiatric ward. And hey, Geraldine, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Happy full moon. I did not know it was a full moon. Um, so, and I also vaguely remember being inpatient there at the psych unit. I want to say it was probably a week or two that I was there. And I don't remember my diagnosis. I don't remember them starting me on any medication. That may have happened, but I don't remember. I just remember being there and learning how to make hemp necklaces. Um, and Jack Johnson also like reminds me of that time because one of the therapists there um, introduced me to Jack Johnson, and I really liked him. Um, and then I remember going back to school and people like missed me. They were like, "What happened to you?" and this, that, and the other. And I don't know. In a way, I felt kind of not cool, but like acknowledged, seen. I guess I would say. And then mm, it's really my memory is really vague. I think I must have started going to therapy after that. And I don't remember therapy ever helping me up until I'd say 2013 was my next bout of therapy that I remember because I remember talking about wanting to move out of Michigan and wanting to go on adventures and see what the world was like. Um, and then I finally got to go out into the world in 2014 when one of my friends from school invited me down to Kansas and she offered for me to live with her and her daughter and her husband. And so I did that and I ended up staying down there and I ended up getting married and um, then came back to Michigan, had my daughter. No, I came back to Michigan, got pregnant with my daughter, moved to Pennsylvania when I was 8 months pregnant. I was definitely manic. I was not on my medication. And 2017 was when I really got serious about my mental health. Um, I and this was such a profound turning pivotal point in my life that I was with my daughter and I was a single mom and I realized that and in that mix I got no. Okay. So much clusterfuck. Um I wasn't divorced, but I was separated. And I remember being by myself and just being, I don't know if it was postpartum and probably a mix of all of my internal trauma coming together and just realizing that I was miserable just being by myself. Like up until then, I had always been really kind of an angry person. I've always struggled with my anger. Um, and so that was a big epiphany and a realization that like it's not everybody else around me. It's me that I'm struggling with. Um, I'm the problem. So I was, 23, 24. Um, and so I decided to seek out therapy and I think, I think a, s- I, re- no, I, one of the girls that I had moved to Pennsylvania with, she had a friend that went through postpartum and she went through like this mental breakdown after she had her daughter and she went inpatient. And I remember being inpatient before, but I didn't know you could. And this is take note for those of you who don't know, if you're struggling and you feel like you're not safe by yourself, like something could happen, you don't want to hurt anybody else, you can go to the emergency room and say those exact things. Like, I don't feel safe by myself. I think something's going to happen, and they will get you checked into and they will find a bed for you. Um, so I had my friends watch my daughter while I checked myself inpatient to figure out what was going on with me. Um, and at that point, I was diagnosed with major depression and possibly bipolar. And this was, you know, I don't know. Let me Google it real quick. When was BPD actually originated? Hmm. It it says 1980, but I had never heard of borderline personality disorder until later on that year. Um, because part of part of that journey, diving into my mental health, I was in Pennsylvania. I had no idea who anybody was. I had anxiety, and I was a single mom, so I didn't get to go out, you know. Um, I started going to online support groups, and even still, it's a great resource. www.heypeers.com, HEYPEERS.com, and it's a space for online support groups for people with, all sorts of different mental health disorders. They have art therapy, music therapy, um, financial, budgeting, all sorts of great tools, support groups that can help you. And that's when I went into the rooms, I went in thinking that I had just major depression and bipolar. Well, bipolar is your moods go like this, up, and you go up, 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 and then you go down, and kind of like that, but it's slow. And then I heard somebody mention rapid cycling, and that meant your moods are like this during the days, not just, weeks at a time, months at a time. And that's more, the weeks and months time is more like or bipolar, excuse me. Um, and I remember relating to that like a lot. I was like, wow, that's me. And then they brought up borderline personality disorder, and I had looked it up, and I was like, wow, I felt so validated. I was like, this is what I am. Like, this is me. And it started to put more of the connections together, why I was the way I was, why I had always gotten in so much trouble, why I always felt so misunderstood. And so it wasn't until, let's see, um, just actually 2000, 2019 or 2023 that I was diagnosed officially borderline personality disorder. Um, and so yeah. And then I've always had ADHD since high school. I've always taken medication for it. But I knew that wasn't my main problem. That was kind of something just that I struggled with, but I like was able to work with it and understand it. And major depression, that was like I knew that I had that, and I started my medication journey solidly in 2017 and beyond. Um, like with my mood stabilizer and my antidepressant. Phew. That was a long story. Okay. Um, what were some early signs or experiences that led to your diagnosis of BPD, PTSD, and ADHD? Um, I pretty much just told that um, in that last question. Um, and how did receiving those diagnoses impact your understanding of yourself? It was huge. It was validating. It was just, and then I found that support group, and I was able to find people that were like me. Like I had always felt like something was seriously wrong with me, like I was a bad person, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why, but I just felt like a bad person. Um, so, what does a typical day look like for you emotionally and mentally? Um, oh, I also want to add that after being diagnosed borderline, it wasn't until this past October that I started taking, along with my antidepressant and mood stabilizer, I started taking an antipsychotic, Abilify. And that's something I never even considered that I would ever have to take in my life. Like, I thought that was more for people that, like, I don't know. I guess I was a little bit judgmental about it. I wasn't informed. Um, but it helps to take that kind of overlying anger cloud that I had over me all the time, like quick to react. Um, so that was really a pivotal point in my journey too, being on a antipsychotic. Um, a typical day for me emotionally and mentally, if you would have asked me back then, I was actually watching YouTube videos. I had started maybe October 2023, keeping video diaries of myself. I would record myself on my camera and then I would upload them to YouTube, but I would put it on private so I was the only one that could see them. Because I wanted to journal, but my thoughts moved faster than my hand, and I wasn't really capturing the up and down moods, like what I wanted to convey. And this will probably be, that is what started to lead me into podcasting. I didn't know it at that time, but anyways, I was watching videos from just last year, and my moods were like, I'm crying and I'm calling myself stupid and wanting people to leave me alone, and just it was sad but also inspiring to watch, to see me now. I'm also 5 months sober of weed. I think it can be a great medicinal tool, but for me, I was using it to numb myself from not feeling worthy enough and not feeling deserving enough, and just out of boredom. Um, so, but now you ask me what a typical day looks like is, I just recently started getting up earlier. You know, I make sure that I shower every day, or at least try to. I really try to. Um, Most days I do because I feel yucky if I don't. Um, and then I drink my coffee, scroll on Facebook, the huge. Um, Whereas before I would like instantly want to be up and like perfecting life, like just out the door, go go go, didn't want to be around myself, didn't want to be alone. Now I'm just kind of, and this podcasting helps a lot because it gives me some structure. Um, so since taking the antipsychotic, I've been a lot more stable and calm and not wanting to escape my reality as much. How do these conditions interact with each other in your daily life? I don't know if I understand that question. Um, my BPD only stirs up when I feel like authority figures are telling me that I'm doing something wrong because I take a lot of pride. You know, my grandma raised me and she was, she sheltered me a lot, but she wasn't like stern and strict. So I pretty much kind of did what I wanted to a certain extent. Um, and so I take pride in, doing all the right things now, and it like hurts my feelings or it makes me defensive to hear somebody um with like an authority figure try and tell me how to live my life. ADHD, mine's pretty well managed now. I I go to school, not right now, I'm taking the semester off, but I go to school, I struggle with English and algebra, but mostly English. Um, but I work with tutors to help me. Um, I want to say that I don't know if it's the PTSD, the ADHD, or actually it probably is more the borderline that I get emotionally exhausted very easily. Um, Interacting with people, interpersonal, um, exchanges, they make me very tired. So that's why, I haven't worked since, I don't know, it's been a few years now. And I've never had employment for more than a year because of the fluctuations in my mood and the different obstacles I faced with my mental health. So, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, so that affects me. Um, are there any misconceptions about BPD, PTSD, or ADHD that you wish more people understood? Just people with borderline personality disorder, it doesn't mean they have multiple personalities. I don't think that's what it is. It's more they have hard time, like a very hard time regulating their emotions. It's physically painful to go through rejection or struggle with your relationships, platonic and romantic. Um, and I wish more people understood how to kind of help support people with borderline personality rather than push them away. There's support groups out there for families, members of people with these um, diagnoses that can help you and help your loved one, you know, what's the word? Cohabitat, habitate together and like grow together. Um, what coping strategies or tools have helped me the most? Going through HBH, going to group therapy, DBT also. It works on interpersonal effectiveness, emotional regulation, um, distress tolerance, um, meditating, although I don't do it as much, and podcasting. podcasting really helps me um, because I get to share my story, and you know, I don't always realize how inspiring that is to other people, because I am like, I can't help but be myself and talk about it because it's been such a big part of my life. Like, I just take for granted and assume that everybody knows about it, knows what it is, knows how to handle it, or just, yeah. So, that's helped me. How have your relationships been affected by your mental health journey? Wow, that's a good question. Um, the ones that matter have stuck by me, and they've seen my growth. Like, for instance, Christy. Um, I know it's late, so she's probably sleeping, but she constantly tells me like how much I've grown, um, compared to the little shit I was when I was younger. I was just an angry girl without a care in the world, thought I had the world by the balls, and now I know that I always have room to grow, room to learn, um, stay teachable. But there has been a lot of heartache, a lot of broken relationships along the way. But I'd like to think that as I've got older, I've, at least reached out to those people and, you know, kind of caught up, or at least, let them know. I'm pretty open about my mental health journey and how far I've come. Um, Now I have my, small group of people. I make a lot of, like, not a lot of friends, but very good quality friends on TikTok live, and just TikToking. Um, and networking through podcasting is also helpful. Going to my support groups, the group therapy, DBT, I that is really like a tight knit community where I can share and be my complete self, and also realize that other people are struggling, you know, just as much, if not more, than I am. So that's validating, I suppose, is the word. Um, what do you wish friends, family, or partners knew about supporting someone with these conditions? Like I mentioned before, there's ways that you can help communicate, help, kind of. I think the term would be distress tolerance, um, de-escalating situations, um, not giving in to um, the manipulations that come with having borderline, because rejection and all those things I mentioned are physically painful, that you just, when you're unmedicated, you'll say or do anything just to relieve that pain. And I wish more people understood that some people just need kind of guidance in the right direction to know that there's help out there, um, that they don't have to live that way, you know. Um, have you found any ways to communicate your needs more effectively? Through DBT, I'm currently in the interpersonal effectiveness chapter, and that's teaching me how to communicate, how to know what I want before I communicate, rather than putting it on somebody else and expecting them to know the answer, because people aren't mind readers. Um, I think that kind of sums that question up. What does healing look like for you right now? Podcasting, um, you know, group therapy, um, soon to be mental health court, staying sober, being reunified with my children, and just keep heading in the right direction and reaching out to my caseworker, my therapist, my psychiatrist, being and staying honest. Keeping it honest is like one of the top 3 most important things that you can do for yourself in your healing journey, because if you're not honest, how can other people help you? You know what I mean? And you don't know who you're helping or who you're inspiring by staying honest with yourself and with others. Um, I'm already mentioned like turning points and breakthroughs in my journey. How do I celebrate my progress even when it feels small? I journal about it. I share it with, my team and my supporters. And I share it with you guys. Um, what made you want to share your journey publicly, especially on a podcast? Um, it started with the video diaries, and then shortly, I started TikToking, and you see people on TikTok and they were interviewing people with this little microphone, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, I wish I could do that. And then I invested in one of those tiny little microphones that can plug into your phone, and you have one and somebody else has one. And I was like so inspired and so jazzed that I had that. Like, I wanted to get out there and interview people. And then I came across the funds to be able to get a soundboard with a microphone and a computer so that I could start actually sitting down, talking one on one with you guys, and slowly starting to find Podmatch and find guests that I can bring on my show that share like-minded goals, mental health experience, human experience, professionals that are trained in that field. So it's healing for me, and the feedback I get is always supportive, so that keeps me going. And I also, in the big picture of things, I like to see my progress over time. Um, yeah, I think that answers that. How do you hope your story will impact others who are struggling? Um, like I said, just stay honest with yourself, stay honest with others. I hope that you realize that, you know, there may be a time where you may have to, and I don't think people like, I don't think everybody has to be on medication, but I do think that the people who need it. Like, it's just like having diabetes. Um, like, you take this medicine to help your brain health. Um, so, and know that there's, if you try therapy and it doesn't work for you, maybe it wasn't the right therapist, and you can ask for other therapists. But just keep being persistent about, your needs in your mental health journey, and keep helping yourself, um, because you're worth it, and you're the only person that is going to care the most about how you do in your life, if that makes sense. And it gets better. It gets different, and it gets better. What advice would you give to someone who's just beginning to explore their mental health journey? Um, Take it all in stride. Just stay teachable. Um, Keep an open mind is one of the biggest things. You never know what you may pick up from other people's struggles, other people's resiliency, other people's stories, and just keep exploring. If there's a voice inside of you saying that, like, you just want answers because you haven't found the answers that you're looking for yet. They're out there. There are people just like you. You're not alone. You're not alone. And like I said, it will get different and it will get better. And so how long have we been live? About 40 minutes. That's a good solid wrapping up questions. If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say? Oh boy. That you're not a bad person. You just haven't been given the tools yet to know everything that you're going through. And that people, it's not, how do I word this? People may not understand what you're going through, and they may not be healed themselves. So you're not always, I don't want to say it like that, you're not always the problem, but there are people that are unhealed out there, and they don't even realize it. So, love yourself. Love yourself the best that you can, and you will find people along the way that will inspire you and make quality connections with you and understand you. What does self-compassion mean to you today? Just showing up for myself, going to group therapy, going to therapy, reaching out to my mental health team, not sinking into myself when I have bad days, and also taking time for myself when I do have bad days. Like, it's one of the biggest sayings, like, it's just a bad day, not a bad life. And also, mental illness may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. What are you most proud of in your journey so far? Being able to be here today and share my story and podcasting, and of course my kids. Learning how to be a better parent than what I had growing up. Learning from their mistakes. My grandparents, just people in my family, and changing that generational trauma for, my kids and their kids. And yeah. So with that being said, I think I covered my whole dang story. I don't know if it was entertaining. I don't know how it was for you guys, but I feel like I've said my piece. And now it's night time. So thank you for watching. I hope you've gained something from this. I appreciate all you guys who tune in, who watch me, who drop a comment, drop a like, and just, tell me in person that I'm inspiring and they like what I do and they appreciate my honesty. And just thank you so much.